Emilia Rovira Nordman. Welcome, Emilia. Hope you can hear us. You should turn off on your mic. Exactly. How are you?
Yes, thank you very well. I tried to. I told at the end that I took French for 3 years in high school, and I tried to understand something, and I understood international business, but I guess that was in English, right?
Well, it's in every language, you know. Okay, Emilia. Well, welcome. Very nice. Very happy that you are able to join us and make this presentation with us. And a very exciting topic. We're going to discuss it a little bit. I think you are at the moment in Västerås, very close to Stockholm, where you work and teach, and you're head of marketing and you're head of the marketing and strategy department at the Mälardalen University. But maybe I pronounced it wrongly, so you can maybe rephrase it.
No, it's really hard. Mälardalen University.
Mälardalen.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's close to Stockholm in the close periphery.
Yeah, it's about 1 hour from Stockholm, and it's known as like the industry hub of Sweden, the area around Lake Mälaren. So we have ABB there, Asea Brown Boveri, I don't know if you know about it, and also Bombardier, we have head office there. So we have a lot of big industries, but I'm into SMEs. Okay,
excellent. So,
should I share my screen?
Yes, go ahead. The reason why we invited Emilia is she's been doing a work. Actually, she has a co-presenter who unfortunately has COVID, if I understood properly, and she couldn't participate. Or how is she now?
I think she's better.
Okay, good. Okay. So the reason why we invited Emilia is that she has been working on B2C SME going for e-commerce. It's something that has been very hot topic over the last months, of course, with first because it was already a hot topic before COVID, and also because, of course, with COVID, more companies have had to enter this kind of e-commerce game, or at least have found interest. Territories or industries where the penetration of e-commerce was very limited has completely boomed during COVID time, and it's most likely that people will, go on buying a lot more stuff online than they used to before the pandemic. And I think it's very interesting that we address this topic also because many SMEs who have been addressing the e-commerce challenge have had a hard time, a very hard time organizing the sales, promoting the offer, getting visitors to buy the offer, delivering, getting paid, and so on. So this whole process, which looks so easy when you are a buyer, when you are the shopper, is very complex in reality when you are the seller. So this is why we thought this topic tonight, and we will have a few more topics about this, the same in the coming months, is really something that we want to focus on and try to understand how SMEs, who have, of course, less resources, less people, less knowledge sometimes than big companies, how they can take advantage. Do they have, upsides, or do they have mostly downsides? But how can they take advantage of going to e-commerce when they go for B2C sales? Now, Emilia, I give you the floor for 30 to 30 minutes with your presentation, and then we'll take the questions and we have a question time together. Okay?
Yes, thank you. I will try to be as short as possible so we can have a long discussion.
We are here to listen to you, so we are more than happy that you take your time to express your thoughts and your analysis. Okay?
Thank you. So, warmly welcome to this presentation. I'm really happy and honored to be invited to La Fabrique d'Exportation. Today I will discuss some outputs in relation to our project about internationalizing retail SMEs and try to answer the question, how can SMEs develop and improve their e-commerce internationalization strategy? So I have been researching small business internationalization since I started my PhD studies in 2003. And my research group's aim is to contribute to the understanding of how international SMEs grow and survive. And we went from investigating the internationalization processes of life science firms, that was really hot when I started to do my PhD education in 2003, to this project when we investigate how all the retailers, and that is companies that already had functioning business models, how they have acted to start with e-commerce. And how they have transformed their business processes and added an e-commerce dimension to their ordinary business. So in this presentation, I will tell you more about what the study has resulted in and what 3 different paths the companies that we have looked at has taken to enter international markets by using the internet. So I do not know the situation in France, but SME research is really, really relevant in Sweden. And one reason for this is that Sweden is such a small country where also the companies are really small. So you can see in this picture that the little red or orange bite here of the pie are both Sweden's medium-sized and large companies. So the rest are actually one-man companies, micro firms and small firms. And in comparison to many other countries in the EU, Sweden's small home market has driven us into really becoming a successful export nation. And over the last 2 decades, SME has gained greater importance both in employing persons and providing jobs, but also we have increased our international orientation. So why do we look at retail? Etienne explained to me that the retail has a different meaning in France. You think about big food chains or chains like IKEA, but what I mean with retail, it's also like small producers of things like design, clothing, like particular brands that they try to go out and sell abroad. And in Sweden, the retail industry together with the wholesale industry is marked by a higher proportion of internationally active SMEs than other business sectors. Moreover, the recent growth in the size and number of internet retailers has escalated the degree of internationalization among these firms. So because of the corona epidemic, many new Swedish businesses started in 2020. And during the first 11 months of 2020, nearly 20% more companies were registered than during the same period in 2019. And the largest growth of these firms were, of course, in e-commerce and many of them in retail e-commerce, but also in the construction sectors. So by focusing on the retail industry, we could simplify the process of identifying and following small internationally active firms that have been able to grow in international markets. So that's really a significant sample for us. If we look at our theoretical background, we build on international entrepreneurship as a theoretical field to investigate these firms. International business research was long dominated by research about the international expansion of large established companies. So few studies looked closely at the internationalization of small businesses. But then we also had the entrepreneurship literature that studied new firms, but focused on those that only had an domestic operations, and they weren't that focused on international business. So in the 1990s, the prerequisites for internationalization changed as information technology makes it easier and cheaper for small businesses to get new customers and partners in foreign markets. So at this time, more and more persons also started to travel and to study abroad and to work abroad. So the researchers saw that more and more companies actually could go international from the beginning. And they saw this trend in society and came up with the idea of international entrepreneurship. And they said that we need international entrepreneurship theory because the old international business theories fail to explain these kinds of companies, because they assumes that firms become international long after they have been formed, and therefore they only highlight large and mature firms. And they also do not focus enough on individuals and entrepreneurs and their networks. So international entrepreneurship theory highlights that it's becoming increasingly important to understand the history and the network of entrepreneurship and the individual entrepreneurs when you study international companies. So based on these ideas of international entrepreneurship, our empirical investigation focused on exploring the specific features that enable international expansion through e-commerce in SMEs. And then, like I said, our unit of analysis was retail companies. So in Sweden, we have some successful new retail concepts that I don't know if you heard about, but Daniel Wellington, that has been really successful internationally in selling watches, and Ideal of Sweden that sell covers for mobile phones. And these companies have been able to reach mass markets quickly from building a social media following from the start. But we were really interested in how older firms would implement e-commerce in their existing business models and how they could act to develop e-commerce international strategies that would fit with their existing business models to succeed better in foreign markets. So for this study that I will talk about today, we have made interviews with founders and employees in 5 case companies. And we have also looked at archival data from these companies. And we use this to develop a questionnaire that we have collected data from in 99 e-commerce retailers that are active in foreign markets. And that doesn't sound so much, but in Sweden, that's actually about 40% of all retail companies. But we haven't started to analyze that data yet. So because we promise our companies to be anonymous, we call these companies the auction house, the book company, the fashion company, the design company, and the baby company. And you can see that all of them are over 20 years that we wanted to, because we wanted to see how they could implement these new e-commerce strategies in their existing models. They have different number of employees, and they also have different foreign sales, but to be included in this sample, they had to have at least 10% of their sales going abroad. So if we deep dive into 3 of these companies, we can see that the design company, they have their own physical stores in different countries, but they don't run online stores of its own. Instead, they sell online via their customers that have their own big web stores, such as the Swedish company Design Online, that is a really big company focusing on design, selling design all over the world. We have the auction house that were really early to build their own system for international online bidding, and today they have a global delivery system in place so they can deliver products all over the world. And we have the baby company that does not have its own stores, and they never had their own stores because they are so niched, so they couldn't really have stores for just a few couple of products that they sell. But it is an old established company, and they have distributors all over the world and a large reseller network that they sell via. And they have recently opened their own online store. So they distribute products to customers in Europe from the central warehouse in Sweden and uses local distribution in other countries such as China and Japan. So we start to look closer at the design company. In an interview from 2017, the founder says, 5 years ago, all of our biggest customers were shops or department stores selling designs. Today, the customers in Germany and France are online customers, over half of them. When we look at exports, it's clear that online sales are increasing for us. Nothing is like it used to be, and that means I have to have a completely different toolbox for exporting. And the consequences of the industry changing in this way and the increase in international online sales, it is that the sales at the company's physical stores are declining, and the company has been forced to close down several of its stores around the world and focus more and more on the e-commerce. But the design company, like I said, they don't have its own store but sells online via customers with their web stores. And they can do this because they already have an established brand in international target markets. So the founder says that we know that there are a lot of design freaks that like Scandinavian design all over the world. They are few, but they are there and they are quite well defined. So the advantage of our brand is that the customer is quite clear. Even if they live in Tokyo, New York, or Paris, they're quite similar. They're probably even studied together at one of the universities. So he thinks it's really beneficial for the company that they have such a clear customer group and that the design company is already so well positioned in the mind of consumers. When asked whether the consumers does not need to see and feel these items that they sell because they're quite expensive before making online purchase decisions, the founder says, I think it's completely archaic to believe that. Yes, anonymous products are very hard to sell. What you need to struggle with is how to build a brand that becomes so well known that you can benefit from its products being online. And therefore strong brands have become even stronger. And one interesting aspect with this is when e-commerce started, there were many persons who believed that now we will only compete on basis of price. I'm sorry, I just have to cough for a minute. I will turn the microphone.
Take your time, no problem.
Sorry, no, I'm back. Yeah.
I would love to offer you a glass of water, but
it's impossible. I know.
I don't know if it works.
No, so you would only compete on price, but he says that's not the case. We will be forced to compete on basis of our brands.
Are you fine, Emilia?
Yes, I'm sorry. So one thing that we also learned is that competition is fierce, even though it is online, because we had not investigated retail for that long. So I thought that when you sold your items online, there were indefinite place, so you could have all the brands online. But these companies explain that the market has traditionally consisted of a few companies that have fought for the same store space in the department of Scandinavian design. And this pattern of competition is actually repeated in the web sales. So although online retailers can bring in more brands than department stores, there is still competition online among the brands to capture the customer's attention. So this was an interesting aspect that we didn't know about before we started this study. So we move into the next company, that is the baby company that has built their brand more on controversial ideas. And in 1974, Swedish fathers became the first in the world to be entitled to paid parental leave. So in line with the societal streams of the 70s, the baby company launched a baby carrier that was aimed at parents who wanted to carry their children safely on their breast, something that was considered important for the baby's well-being. So many of their ads portrayed fathers that carried their children in this way. And the company continued to work actively with its marketing to raise the issue of gender equality as the norm. And the founder of this company is really proud about that now. And he says, if you sum up what the company has done, the biggest effort all over the world is that we have got fathers to be together with babies in a completely different way than before we came with these baby carriers. And this idea is also supported by the baby company's creative designer that says in an article from 2005. In many countries, the cultural idea we have of so our advertising material looks the same all over the world, with pictures of Swedish dads carrying their children. 10 years ago, these images were shocking in countries like France and Spain, but today they are fully accepted. In Japan, marketers still giggle embarrassed at the dad pictures. So in many countries, the cultural idea we have of fathers helping to care for their children, even when they are babies, was strange, but it was something that positioned the company in people's minds and has really helped to carry this brand and build it. So the marketing principle that the company has built on with men who take care of small children has created a cliché in popular culture. If you in a movie want to position a dad as a softie, you often use one of the company's baby carriers. And according to an article in New York Magazine, the company pays a PR specialist to get the company's baby carriers into as many production as possible. And she has really succeeded in this. It says in the last 3 years, the baby carrier has made roughly 60 original on-screen appearances and is being put on men about 4 times as often as women. So this is a testament that the marketing strategy has worked and positioned the brand in the eyes of consumers. So this approach of building on the Swedish idea of parenting has really been something that has carried the marketing of this company. So now in the last example, the auction house that has a long history and a really prestigious reputation in Sweden. When the company first began to think about online sales, it was doubtful whether it would work. Would they not risk watering out their prestigious name by starting online auctions that had kind of a poor reputation at this time? It was only like institutions selling really low quality stuff that had this auction feature in Swedish retail at that time. So to get around this problem and become better known as a company that sells high quality objects, they decided only to sell objects that had a really high standard and had been vetted by one of the expert evaluators that work at the firm. And by working with this type of curation, the customers can always know that it is a quality object they are buying. And this maintains the company's reputation as a high quality auction house. So in line with this, the company has invested a great deal of time and resources in tailoring a high quality digital shopping experience. So every aspect of the web page is designed to create a seamless customer experience. And you can go in and look at higher resolution images of any object to see in detail what every object looks like. And they have also invested a lot to manage the supply chains, so they can send their objects anywhere in the world, and they guarantee that it will come and be whole and unharmed, and in time also. So because the digital customer experience works so well in the auction house, the customers have been buying more and more expensive things since the website was launched. So in the beginning, only the less expensive objects were sold online and more expensive in the hammer auctions. But now the customers have started to trust the company, and more expensive items are sold online. So as international customers can participate, the price pressure is greater. The auction house has sold objects for up to 100,000 euros online. And that was something they never believed possible in the beginning. So now for the takeaways from this study. Despite the fact that the retail trade sells huge sums every year, international retail is an understudied subject in marketing research. And that has led to that many good journals wanted to publish our results. And the study contributes to international retail literature with insights into both advantages and disadvantages of using partnerships to overcome challenges. Online retailers can use partnerships to tackle industry dynamics and break into foreign markets. So a cheap way to launch your business concept internationally is through this so-called piggyback internationalization, like I talked about in the design company. They don't have their own online store, but sell to a partner. By doing this, you avoid problems with managing payments and deliveries and repurchases to end customers, and it can be an effective and inexpensive strategy in the short term. But reliance upon relationships may paradoxically inhibit retailers' abilities to stay competitive in the post-entry phase in the long term, since they become cut off from first-hand market learning. So in addition to paying a large part of the profit to your partner when you don't have your own web store, you don't have direct access to the customer, and you can't find out what they think about the products, and this makes it more difficult to come up with targeted offers and to grow in different markets. So if you really want to invest in your internationalization, the research that we have done highlights the importance of daring to take risks and develop certain functions and processes to drive opportunities related to international e-commerce. And we identify 3 archetypical patterns for international development of e-commerce. First, it's the asset-driven internationalization pattern that was shown by the design company. The e-commerce strategy builds on the company's origin, that it actually had a brand before it went out to work with a partner that was well established, and it had relationships with the customers, and it can also be other assets. And then we have the market-driven internationalization pattern that the baby company is an example of. That's when the e-commerce strategy builds on the company's strategies to enter particular market niches and the possibilities to do that. So they have really created a niche, both in regards to the specific products that they sell, but also in regards to this highlighting the equality aspects in their marketing. And the third is the digital capabilities-driven internationalization pattern that is portrayed by the auction house. And that is an e-commerce strategy that builds on the company's strategies to find totally new benefits with e-commerce models. They wouldn't have thought it possible that it would work so well, but now the hammer auctions or their traditional auctions, that's only a small part of their existing business models. And we looked at 5 companies in the study and came to the conclusion that there are at least 3 ways to run e-commerce. So there might be even more ways if you would look at more companies. So shortly, some managerial implications. To succeed with international e-commerce, you may need to re-establish the brand in the markets and find a new level of trust in consumers that already trusted the brand in the past. And before you do that, you have to make sure that you can handle online payments and deliveries and overcome challenges that are connected to logistics. It may take some time for foreign customers to trust the new business model of an old firm. So you need to stick to your online strategies for a while. Online retailers need to stand out in a way that separates them from the rest. So they need to find specific niches and customer segments, because otherwise it would be really hard to make a mark on another market. To do this, their offers must be different from the offers of the established companies. So SMEs can achieve this, for example, by offering better products, a different business concept like the baby company, or better services. And of course, companies with established brands on foreign markets, they have an easier situation than new brands that have to build up reputation from the beginning. SMEs can piggyback on partners, but they can also work on their origin to stand out in the competition, like this idea of the Scandinavian design and the Swedish way of parenting. And there's not just one way to design a successful e-commerce business model. So all SMEs must find a way that works for them. So this is the output of our projects. We have hitherto written 2 papers in good journals and 1 practitioner-oriented book in Swedish. And at the moment, we are the most downloaded paper in the Journal of World Business. And we're really happy about that. So if you want to read more about this, please go in and download the article, because it's free.